Welcome back to Bullyball, a 49er podcast. Today, we're going to be breaking down our final 53-man roster projection heading into the season, and we'll do a little recap of the 49ers' final preseason game against the Houston Texans. Jump in and let's go.
Tony Montana, Tony Montana, Tony Montana, check up on my ear. Tony Montana, Tony Montana, Tony Montana, I'm about to cut the...
So welcome in. This is Bullyball. We're at 93 subscribers right now. If you're here watching, please subscribe. We're trying to hit 100 subscribers prior to game 1 of the season, which is going to be September 11th against the Chicago Bears. And real quick, before we hop in, did you happen to see Justin Fields last night against, I forget who they were playing?
I heard that he looked pretty dang good. I saw some stat line, and he was like 14 for 17, like 160 yards and 3 touchdowns or something like that. So
yeah, 3 touchdowns. One, he threaded the needle between the corner and the safety into the end zone. It was a really nice pass. One was similar to what the 49ers had Trey Lance doing a lot, which was they rolled him out to the right, play action, boot to the right, threw a perfect pass to a wide open dude in the end zone. And then the last one, I forget what he was doing, if it was like a 7-step drop or whatever, but he hit Dante Pettis in the back left corner of the end zone for a touchdown. So funny to see that one, but yeah, it looked very good. So it'll be interesting week 1. People are saying it's going to be a walk in the park, but the 49ers are dealing with a bunch of injuries, key positions. So I would not count anybody out in that week 1 game. But anyways, before we jump into our final 53-man roster projection for the team heading into the season, let's do a little recap of the final preseason game. What are your remarks, takeaways, anything like that from the game?
Everybody it was a lackluster game for sure. The 49ers came out just looking flat on both sides. Offensive, didn't have much pop, much spark to it, looked pretty dead. Trey Lance was off. His stat line looked like decent, but you could tell that he wasn't on that night. Same with the defense. The defense was just from the start, really. I mean, Ebukam, I think, had the sack on the first play. And then after that, they were just gouging us. Their run game was just getting 5-6 yards a carry. Passing, they were doing good passing too. So overall, the team looked flat. They didn't really pick it up at all throughout the game either. So, I know we'll probably talk about a little bit more too a little bit later on, but the O-line is concerning to me for sure. This definitely didn't help with any of my concerns this last preseason game. So
Definitely.
What about you?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
Very few positives, but I did have a few positive takeaways from the game. One of those being your interior O-line. I sent you and Dad a video. I don't know if you watched it yet, but Aaron Banks, Brendel, and Burford did have a relatively good game, even though you would not think so based off of what you've seen in the game. They actually did play well. And then with that, another player that I thought performed deep, ups and downs. You good?
Yeah.
I would say is Brock Purdy. Obviously threw that terrible interception. Doesn't have a big arm, but he played with poise and he made some confident throws over the middle with accuracy. So I liked what I saw from him. On the defensive side, Sam Womack, obviously, the dude he looks like a 4 or 5 year vet. He's just savvy with his playmaking ability. Yeah, and that's pretty much it on the defensive side of the ball for me. Obviously,
Yeah.
your pass rushers, Jordan Willis looked decent again. Omenihu looked good. Got a few sacks I saw. Ebukam, like you
Abucon.
said. Um, and then Drake Jackson blew up the quarterback. Got that terrible flag, but they looked pretty
He
good.
Drake Jackson looked a little underwhelming to me this game. Definitely didn't look like the first two preseason games. I saw him getting stood up a lot on 1-to-1s. But I figure it's only preseason, so not too much to worry about there.
Do you have a bully of the week this week?
Yeah, I was thinking of that. That it's a hard one this week because, like I said, nobody really played too well to me. Um, I would maybe say Ebukam just because Ebukam was looking really strong that first drive. He was getting in there on the run game, and then he was getting a lot of pressures. He had the sack in that first drive, so I would say Ebukam would be my bully of the week.
And if you watched live our pregame primer, I had said I thought the bully of the week would be Samson Ebukam. So, just goes to show you. But I would agree. No one else really did anything that made you like, oh my God. But
Hmm.
another player I wanted to mention, kind of redeemed himself a little bit in my eyes. Trey Sermon he was not great, obviously, as no one was, but he had a much better game than he has shown previously. Um, you have any
That's
thoughts on that?
interesting. Yeah, that's interesting because I was listening to Eric Crocker on his podcast, and he said Trey Sermon didn't look bad or anything, but it looked like he had the least amount of explosiveness. Like he just doesn't look explosive like all the other backs do. These other backs get into the holes fast, and Sermon just doesn't really have that to me. And like I saw what he was saying because when you see Sermon, it takes him a while for some reason to get to the hole. I don't know if it's because he's dancing or if it's just because he doesn't have that explosiveness like that or what, but I don't know. I
Yeah.
could definitely see what he was saying there because when you see Jordan Mason, you see Ty Davis Price, Jeff Wilson, who was this was our first time seeing him in the preseason this year. He looked really good to me. He
Yeah,
didn't
he
his
he
average and everything wasn't great, but he was hitting the hole hard. So that was
he
intriguing.
he definitely showed up, showed us why they have him as the number 2 back.
Yeah.
And I agree. I think Trey Sermon has a different running style than the other backs. But I finally saw something this week,
Yeah.
um, compared to the previous weeks where we saw absolutely nothing from him.
Yeah.
So that was intriguing.
Yep.
All right.
I agree.
So let's go ahead and jump into our 53-man roster breakdown. You want to pull yours up? And
So we can just go off of yours since I know yours is a little bit more put together. I have a few things.
all right, let me pull it up. 1 second.
But yeah, it's gonna be interesting because I think roster cuts come on Tuesday, right? So it's like when it has to be solidified.
Yep. Can you
Okay,
see the full screen?
yeah. If
All
you press that, can you press that? Is there a close button on the left side? Is that a close or is this open? Oh no, never mind. There you go.
All right. So this is David Lombardi and Matt Barrows Excel document. This isn't their projection though. I changed it to what I feel like the 53-man roster should be. So this is not theirs. This is mine. And Alex will jump in and talk about his as well. So we'll start with the offense. So when I'm creating my 53-man roster, and there's nothing against the people that I don't have on the roster, 49ers loaded, a bunch of the people that don't make the team are going to make different teams. So nothing against anybody. This is just how I would build the roster personally. Um, so I'm going with the cheaper option and the more upside at quarterback. So obviously Trey Lance is your starter. And then I have Brock Purdy as the backup with Nate Sudfeld on the practice squad bubble, could get picked up by somebody else. And the reason I decided Brock Purdy is I just felt like he showed me more in the preseason. He doesn't have the strongest arm, but he has similar ability to Trey Lance, as in, hey, I can evade pressure. I can get out of the pocket. I can move, where Nate Sudfeld doesn't bring that. And then also Purdy was showing some accuracy and he was making some tight throws. Obviously, he's a rookie. He was Mr. Irrelevant and he threw some stupid interceptions. But I am taking the guy that's going to be cheaper long term. And I feel like brings the upside that you also have with Trey Lance as your starter. What
Yeah.
about you?
So for me, I have Trey Lance, Nate Sudfeld, and Brock Purdy making it onto the 53. Kyle Shanahan has kind of known to have. Give me 1 second. Sorry about that. Kyle Shanahan, in my opinion, has been known to be stingy with his quarterbacks, especially if they fit his system. Because I think there's been years where we kept Jimmy G, Beathard, and Nick Mullins. So I think we're going to keep all three because Sudfeld, as we know, has that $1 or $2 million guaranteed money. Brock Purdy, like you said, I've been impressed with. I think that the team's probably been pretty impressed as well. And you could risk it. You could try to waive him and hope that he gets back to the practice squad. But it's pretty likely, in my opinion, that somebody would probably pick him up. You know what I mean?
Who, Brock
So
Purdy?
Purdy.
Yeah.
Maybe even Sudfeld, because like we said in the last podcast, supposedly teams were thinking of him as a starter. There was like 2 or 3 other teams who thought he was a starter, which is interesting in itself. But I think all 3 will make the roster for me.
And one interesting thing to note is roster cutdowns are this upcoming Tuesday. So the 49ers have a decision to make. Do they keep Jimmy Garoppolo on the roster and cut somebody else that should be on the roster just to keep him until September 11th, which is the day his contract becomes guaranteed? So they give themselves, what is that, like 8 or 9 days more? So that's the 30th. So they give themselves about a week and a half longer to try to trade him, but at the expense of another player that should be on the roster? Or do they just release him on cut down day? Interesting dynamic.
Yeah. I would probably just cut him, because if a trade hasn't came to fruition by now, I don't think it's going to come to fruition in 8 or 9 days. And teams know that we're probably going to end up cutting him. You know what I mean? I know that Shanahan and York could be said, oh, yeah, any scenario is possible with Jimmy G staying on the team. But teams know that we're going to have to get rid of him. Like, we're not going to pay. I think Jed York said we would keep his contract to be a mentor. Like, you're not going to pay $28 million for somebody to be a mentor. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I think a release is coming soon, and I don't think a trade's going to come to fruition.
Another interesting thing, though, is it's been said that the Seahawks are probably the team if he gets cut. So if you hold him until the 10th or 11th, the 49ers play the Seahawks the following week. So that would only give him a week on their roster. Probably not going to play. Whereas if you cut him now on Tuesday, he probably still wouldn't have a full grasp in just 2 weeks. But it's just an interesting thing that people were talking about. So something to keep an eye on.
Yep.
And then diving into running back. Now, running back, this is a very interesting one. People are going to go a whole bunch of different ways with their running back projections. Mine personally, I have the 49ers keeping 5, which is pretty insane because they always keep 4. And one dynamic that I was thinking, we don't know if Elijah Mitchell's actually healthy. Kyle Shanahan lies a lot. He could possibly end up on the PUP or on IR for the first 4 weeks of the season. And then it makes keeping 4 easier. But for the sake of this, I just have them keeping 5 and cutting down at other positions. I have Elijah Mitchell, Jeff Wilson, Trey Sermon, Ty Davis Price, and Jordan Mason, with JaMychal Hasty, bubble practice squad, probably gets picked up by a different team. I could see cutting Trey Sermon. He hasn't performed well. But from what the Kyle Shannon has said, he looks great in practice to them. And in this last preseason game, I saw, a little more of what I wanted to see from him. And then obviously, Jordan Mason has shown all preseason he's a guy that you need to keep. Honestly, if Trey Sermon or TDP didn't make the roster, it wouldn't surprise me. But obviously, roster politics. I see at least for sure Ty Davis Price making it, but I think Trey Sermon as well. What about you?
So before I give mine, is this what you want to happen, or is this what you think is going to happen?
This is what I prefer to happen, not what I think is going to
Okay.
happen. Yeah.
So mine's going off what I think is going to happen, like what I think the Niners are going to do, not what I want to happen. So just to clarify for that. So for mine, I only have them keeping the 4 running backs. Eli Mitchell, of course, Jeff Wilson at RB2, and then Ty Davis Price and Trey Sermon. Like you said, Shanahan has been talking very highly of Trey Sermon throughout this offseason, said that he was one of our best players. Same with John Lynch. So I don't think they're going to cut him, but who knows? It could be a little scheme, They could be trying to trade him, talk him up. Oh, yeah, he looks great just in the games, not looking too good because our offensive line, whatever, yada, yada. And they could be trying to get somebody to bite and take him, A team would take him because I'm sure there's teams that like Trey Sermon before. But for now, I have him making the team, and then also Ty Davis Price, of course. So that's leaving out JaMychal Hasty, Jordan Mason. I think that they'll hope that Jordan Mason will make it back to the practice squad, but I don't think there's any chance in hell that he makes it back if we waive him. So those are my 4. Then with Juszczyk, obviously at fullback. Quick question for you: with your projections, who would you have as the third down back out of those guys?
Third down back.
So meaning like the pass catching back.
Probably Jeff Wilson.
Jeff Wilson.
He excelled in that role. Was it 2020?
2019.
Or 2019, yeah. So I'd like to see him get back to taking that role. I could also see Trey Sermon. He showed a little bit last year in that third down role in that Jacksonville game. But yeah. One thing to note is I would also not be surprised if it's Elijah Mitchell, Jeff Wilson, Hasty, and TDP. The 49ers really like Hasty. So that's going to be one of the most interesting dynamics we see when roster cutdowns happen is the running back position.
An interesting thing, too, was that you remember the last play of last year, it was JaMychal Hasty that was in the ball game.
Yep.
And Jimmy G tried to throw that like weird pass to him. It was Hasty. And Hasty has looked good this preseason, too. So, like you said, I wouldn't count out Hasty. I wouldn't be surprised if Hasty made it over Trey Sermon, or I think the real battle obviously is between there you have 3 running backs battling for one position, and that's Trey Sermon, Hasty, and Jordan Mason battling for the last running back spot, in my opinion.
Yeah, and it's pretty unfortunate because
Yeah.
if Ty Davis Price wasn't drafted, it's kind of like he has to make the team this year. He hasn't really shown anything much better than any of the other guys. But
Yeah.
you draft him again, another guy in the 3rd round, you have to keep him. So it's one day,
And
hopefully they don't do this.
One thing that Peacock and Crocker were saying was like, we don't have anything against Ty Davis Price or Trey Sermon, but the thing that we have a problem with is the value of the pick. Because me and you were beating that drum from the start. You know what I mean? Like, why take a running back in the 3rd round when you hit on these 5th, 6th rounders? Eli Mitchell, Jeff Wilson, Matt Breida, Mostert. Those are all late round guys. You know what I mean? We didn't draft Mostert, but he was a late round guy. So I just don't get why we keep drafting these 3rd round dudes when they haven't worked out. Because look at the guys, the running backs we've drafted early. Trey Sermon, Joe Williams. If anybody's been watching the Niners for a little bit, they would remember when we drafted Joe Williams out of Utah. He was a complete bust. We drafted him like the 3rd, 4th round. Ty Davis Price isn't looking any better than undrafted free agent Jordan Mason so far. So I just don't get why we keep taking these 3rd round guys when these 5th, 6th, 7th undrafted dudes are outplaying them or playing to the same level at least. So
Yep. And one thing to highlight from the last game, Damon Pierce, the running back for the Texans, was drafted a round later than Ty Davis Price. And he looks to be what they expected to get. And I'm just saying. All right, so now we're going to wide receiver. So I have the 49ers keeping 6. Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, Jawan Jennings, Malik Turner, Danny Gray, and Ray McLeod. I could see them keeping 5, but Malik Turner has showed me enough on offense and special teams that I think you keep him around.
Yep. I have the same 6 as well. Like you said, Malik Turner, he did have a drop pass or 2 in this last game, but his special teams, that dude is a savage on special teams. Like on punt, that dude is a savage, causing turnovers, recovering fumbles. He looks really good on special teams. So I think his special teams value is enough for him to make the roster.
And if I'm being honest with you, I heard Ray McLeod was good in camp, but just based off the preseason games, I've seen more from Malik Turner than Ray McLeod. Just saying.
Has Ray been playing much at all? I honestly don't even remember him playing too much. I mean, I think the first game.
I've seen him in the games, and I did remember one play specifically where he was blocking. I think it was it might have been a linebacker or a D end, and he got obliterated, and it blew up the play in the backfield. So yeah. But yeah, practice squad guys, they probably keep Tay Martin on the practice squad, maybe Marcus Johnson. I don't think they keep Willie Snead around. Yeah, that drop touchdown pass was pretty bad. Did you see that?
No.
It was like the second to last play of the game. Wide open in the end zone and just dropped wide open touchdown pass. Tight end. So I have the 49ers keeping 3, but my 3 are different than what most people are going to say. Obviously, George Kittle and Ross Dwelly, everyone thinks they'll keep. I have them keeping Tyler Kroft over Charlie Warner. I just like the receiving ability I've seen from Kroft in the preseason. So I would prefer them to keep him over Charlie Warner, because Charlie Warner is supposed to be a great blocking tight end, but I haven't seen that over his first 2 seasons. So I'd rather keep the receiving threat.
Yeah. If this was what I wanted to happen, I would want Kroft over Warner as well. But what I think is going to happen realistically is Kittle, Dwelly, and Warner. Lombardi and Barrows had Kittle, Dwelly, Warner, and Croft. So they had 4 making the roster, which I think is overkill. I don't think you need 4 tight ends at all. You should only keep 3. So my 3 that I think is going to happen is Kittle, Dwelly, and Warner. Dwelly did look pretty good receiving wise this last game. But Croft is legit too, but I think he doesn't make the team, unfortunately.
Yeah, and by keeping only 3, that is what allowed me to keep an extra running back on the team. So that was the sacrifice I made, and I think it's worth it.
Keeping 3 for me is what led me to keep Brock Purdy as well on the 53 instead of letting him go to the practice squad.
All right, and now O-line. Now, the O-line, man, it's rough out in these streets. So now this one, I kind of went with what I want to happen, but also I left somebody just because I think they're going to keep them as well. So starters, obviously, you have Trent Williams, Aaron Banks, Brendel, Burford, and McGlinchey. If it was up to me, Colton McKivitz would not be on the team. I also removed Jalen Moore from the team. I would keep Jason Poe and Brunskill, as depth. But I would be hitting the waiver wire, trade market to find a backup swing tackle and another backup tackle for depth. I would not keep Jalen Moore or McKivitz. If you watch the Texans game, it looked like they were like trying to let the DNs get to the quarterback. Like they were stepping out of the way. And it was just right off the bat, like no trying to stop them at all. It was bad. But I think they'll keep McKivitz. And I left one spot open on my 53-man roster. I only have 52 of it on here because I do believe they are going to try to get a waiver, a guy that some other team cuts, or maybe trade for another tackle. What do you think?
I know we brought in that one guy.
He is a guard, though.
Who did he play for?
I think it was the Bills, yeah, but he's a guard.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So this is where I became really worried about the 49ers with this last game because, the Niners kept McKivitz out of the game against the Vikings, and then he didn't play against the Packers, I don't believe. So I thought McKivitz was going to go in there and look pretty good, and he looked dog shit awful. Bad. He looked like Justin School. Maybe not that bad, but he didn't look very good, which is concerning because Mike McGlinchey is, I don't know. I mean, you figure Mike McGlinchey played 1 game, and he already had knee irritation pretty bad to where it's keeping him out for a while. So that's very concerning to me. If you have to start McKivitz, which is a high possibility this year, it's going to be a long year for Trey Lance in this offense because, like I said, McGlinchey doesn't seem like he's very healthy. And then McKivitz is not very good, and Justin School is not very good. So that's very concerning to me. Same with Jalen Moore. He didn't look great either.
Yeah, and Jalen Moore had been injured, so everyone had Jalen Moore as a lock to make the team. Some people even had him projected as the starting right guard before Burford showed up. No, he did not look like he can play, It's unfortunate.
But with that being said, I have Trent Williams, Aaron Banks, Brendel, Burford, and McGlinchey, of course. And then I do have McKivitz making it because we do need a swing tackle. He's obviously not a great one or even a good one in my opinion, but we have to have the depth. And then I have Jason Poe and Brunskill, who provide great depth for the interior O-line, in my opinion, because Poe can play left or right guard. Brunskill can play almost all 5 positions on the O-line, so that's great value right there in those two guys. And then Jalen Moore I have making it as well, just because, like I said, we need that depth. But I agree with you. I wouldn't be surprised if you leave McKivitz or Moore off and you hit the waiver wire to try to get or trade some waiver wire or trade to try to get a tackle or another interior guy.
If you told me I had to have 53 on this, what I would do is I would bring Nick Zakel over to the 53 to provide more interior depth, and then I would have Brunskill as your guy that could be a backup tackle if needed. That is what I would do. I would keep Moore off if it was me.
That's one thing that's good about Brunskill.
Yeah,
he can play almost like all 5 positions. So you're getting that's great value in a depth guy.
Yeah, because Nick Zakel did start to perform very well as the training camp and preseason went on. So that's what I would do. But we'll see what happens. And then we will move on to our defense. D-line, obviously, we'll start with our DNs. Loaded as hell. Nick Bosa and Ebukam as your starters. And I will say, I was heading into this offseason, I didn't know if Ebukam would lock that starting spot, and he definitely did. He looks definitely as the best of the rest behind Bosa. And then we have Omenahu, Willis, Komoko Toure, and Drake Jackson. Now, if the 49ers were to trade one of these guys, like we had said, for a tackle or maybe for a pick, the guy I would be looking to move is Komoko Toure. He showed the least out of the rest of these guys to me. How do you feel about this position, and how do you have it?
Yeah, that's interesting. Komoko Toure hasn't. I mean, I don't know, because in my opinion, he hasn't showed much. But a lot of the actual guys, the scouts and stuff, or like the 49ers media, say that he's played pretty well. He is all across the field and everything.
Well, it depends what you're looking for.
Yeah.
He's really good against a run, but he showed me nothing against the pass.
Yeah, which, I mean, you really need that when you have guys like Bosa, Menahu, Willis, Ebukam, Drake Jackson. It might be smart to have a guy that can really man up against that run and fly around the field. So, with that being said, I have Nick Bosa, Charles Omenahu, Jordan Willis, and then Ebukam, Toure, and Drake Jackson, leaving Kerry Hyder off of my 53, because Kerry Hyder, I don't think has shown much. He looks very out. Like, maybe they are trying to throw him at D tackle, because he does look big. He looks like almost fat to me. You know what I mean? When you see him in his jersey.
Yeah, I haven't even seen him on the field, to be honest with you.
Exactly. He hasn't played. Like, he's on there. If you watch the games, he'll play, but he doesn't have much of an impact at all. Like, I don't see many pressures or anything. So that's why I have leaving him off the 53, because Toure you at least see in the run game, flying around and trying to make plays like that. So I have Kerry Hyder off, which opens up a spot for me, which I'll talk about later.
All right, and then at D tackle, I have Eric Armstead, Javon Kinlaw, Kevin Givens, Hassan Ridgeway, and I have Kerry Hyder on there as a depth piece, just due to the fact that you have Armstead injured at the moment. And I just have him because obviously your D tackles aren't going to be able to play the whole game. So I would also leave him off the roster at the moment if the 49ers weren't kind of thin at D tackle at the moment.
Honestly, I think that Alex Barrett plays better at D tackle than Kerry Hyder does. especially in this last preseason game.
Alex Barrett is a good pass rusher from D tackle,
Yeah.
but against the run, that dude was getting thrown because
He
he's
looks
so
so
small.
weird. Yeah, I was
He's
gonna
like
say he looks
240 or
very
250.
small. Yeah.
Yeah.
He looks really small to be playing inside. But yeah, my interior guys are pretty much the same. Armstead, Kinlaw, Gibbons, Ridgeway. Then I have obviously Kerry Hyder off. I think my first guy coming off the practice squad, if we need somebody, would be probably Kevin Atkins
I agree. And
over like a Kerry Hyder.
I will say, Hassan Ridgeway looks pretty good as a depth piece at D tackle, but everyone has been talking up Kevin Givens all off season, and I just haven't seen him. You know, he hasn't stood out to me in any way.
Who was that?
Kevin
Givens?
Givens.
Yeah, I agree actually. I haven't seen much of Kevin Givens popping up, but it is what it is. That position thinned out fast once Mo Hurst got hurt. So
Yeah. All right, so off to linebacker. I have Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw, and Aziz Al-Shaair as the starters. Keeping Oren Burks and Flanagan Fowles as backups. Oren Burks is hurt at the moment. He has a knee injury, so we'll see if he ends up on IR or anything like that. They said it wasn't bad, but who knows? If he ends up on IR, I keep Marcelino McCrary Ball on the 53 to start. What do you think about that?
Yep, mine's the exact same way. Like you said, with McCrary Ball coming off first, if injury or anything like that.
Yeah, he has showed some upside. I would definitely try to get him on the practice squad.
Yep.
If you can.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so moving to cornerback, we have Charvarius Ward, Ambry Thomas, Emmanuel Mosley, Sam Womack, and Diamador Lenore. Now, one thing is, I think Ambry Thomas could end up on IR, and if he does, it's
Is he hurt?
hard for me. I say I would probably keep Tariq Castro Fields. He started showing up in the last two preseason games. Kadar Holman also makes the case, but I'd probably go with Tariq Castro Fields.
Is Ambry Thomas hurt?
Yeah, that's why he's been out the past 2 weeks.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, they could hit him with one of those, like, even if he's healthy, they could hit him with one of those fake, like, IR designations. The Niners are kind of notorious for putting people on IR, even if they're not really hurt like that.
Ambry Thomas knee injury.
Okay. So mine, I have Charvarius Ward, Ambry Thomas as well, Emmanuel Mosley, Sam Womack, Demo Lenore, and yeah, those are my corners for now.
Who would you keep if Ambry was put on IR?
You still have Jason Brett too coming off IR. Keep somebody if Ambry went on IR would be Dante Johnson. I know he's listed as like a safety, but he can play pretty much everywhere. So I would keep Dante Johnson, then maybe add a player at, like you said, O-line or something like that, because I didn't leave a spot open like you did. So
yeah, so now that we're talking safeties, I have Dante Johnson listed as a safety. I had him making the team as a safety for that depth reason, since Jimmy Ward is going on IR. So at safety, I have Hufanga, Dante Johnson, George Odom, and Tavarius Moore. And I have them because obviously Jimmy Ward is on IR.
yeah, I have Hufanga, Dante Johnson, George Odom, and Tavarius Moore as well. Oh, so you have 25 players. Okay. Yeah, so you have one more. Since I let go of Hyder, you should have one more. Then you had one last on offense because you said you left one open. So,
Yep,
yeah, that makes
exactly.
sense.
And
Yeah, I
then
think
obviously,
keeping Dante Johnson's big too, just because he can cover. If somebody gets hurt at corner, whether it's inside or outside, Dante Johnson can cover that. And then the same at safety. If somebody gets hurt there, he can cover either safety spot, which is huge, great value. Just like a Brunskill type of player, they can cover
mhm.
multiple positions, like more than two. So I think that's big.
And it's crazy how thin the safety spot got as well, right? Now that
Yeah.
Jimmy Ward's out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, very, very unproven. And, that's another reason you don't take another running back in the third round. Now you go back and you look and your O line looks a little thin and your safeties look a little thin where that could have been addressed. Um, I believe it was Nick Cross or
Yeah.
somebody that you were high on went right
Yeah.
after the 49ers took TDP. So,
Nick Cross out of Maryland.
yep, who's been showing up. So, it's
Question
another
for
thing.
you.
Yep.
Who starts at the safety spot opposite of Talanoa Hufanga for their first 4 games?
I think George Odom, you know, Tavarius Moore's looked rough. Um, George Odom is such a bad tackler, though. Like, I don't know how he's so good at special teams because every single preseason game I've watched, he's missed one tackle horrendously on defense.
I mean,
Um,
what's crazy about that too is he had 0 missed tackles in the box last year with the Colts, like when he started.
yeah, and I every time it happens, I text you guys and I'm like, oh my god, how is this dude missing these tackles? Because it's like it's not even in the open field; it's on the sideline. Like just hit him out of bounds. But yeah, it's gonna be rough. The first couple weeks without Jimmy Ward, and it's been said. Who was it? Pro Football Doctor
Mm-hmm.
is saying that Jimmy Ward might not be back until midseason because he has a grade 3 strain, which is a full tear of the hamstring, and
Yeah,
that
and
would
then
be very bad.
Jimmy Ward, to me, is like the glue of our defense. Like he's the unsung leader and hero of our defense. One of the most underrated players in the NFL, in my opinion. One of the best safeties in the NFL. And then having him out, yeah, it's a big loss. One of the most experienced guys on the defense too. So it's a big loss.
And with Jimmy Ward out, maybe the 49ers do go with Tavarius Moore over George Odom. Just because, he's I don't know now, but in 2019 season, he was more of a deep safety. Obviously we saw him get burnt in man against the Packers, but I feel like he might be a better deep third safety than George Odom since you have Hufanga, who isn't really a deep third guy. We'll see how that plays out, though.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk about who you would keep on the practice squad out of the guys that we had not make the roster.
How many practice squad spots? Like 16, right?
16. Yep.
So,
And before we say that, a bunch of these dudes are going to get picked up by other teams. So the 49ers are probably going to be hitting the waiver wire hard to find their practice squad guys. But just for the sake of this, out of these people, who would you keep?
this is like who ideally in a perfect world, who I would.
Yeah.
Okay. So obviously with the guys that I don't have making the roster, I would have Jordan Mason and Hasty both making it as running backs. So that's 2 for me. What about for you for your running backs?
Just Jermichael Hasty because I have everyone else making the
Yeah.
team.
Okay.
I also have Nate Sudfeld as a QB on the practice squad because he didn't
Yeah.
make my team.
So that's three guys for you so far, 2 for me.
No, that's 2 for me, 3 for you.
Oh yeah, because you only had one running back. Yeah. So 2 and 2. Going down to receiver, honestly, I'd probably look to see who gets cut to pick up somebody for the receiver room. I don't think any of those guys are really worth it on the practice squad to me. What about you?
I agree. Maybe Tay Martin since he was a rookie.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a maybe for me.
Yeah. Going down to tight end, I would keep Croft because I don't have Croft making it. So that'd be just Croft. So that's 3 for me. What about you?
I'd keep Charlie Warner,
Yeah.
for me since Adam not make it.
Yeah. O-line, Zakel for sure. I'd have him get back. Donovan West, I would probably keep as well. So that's 5, right? 5 for me.
Yep.
2 running backs. Croft, yeah. That's probably it from the O-line. I don't even remember seeing Sutherland play. And then
He was
I'm not keeping
terrible.
School. Yeah, I'm not keeping. Oh, is he? Oh, he's
He
the
was the
backup
center. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that dude's trash. That dude's trash. I'm not keeping School either, so I'm just keeping Zakel West, and I'm probably looking at the waiver wire as well.
Yeah, I'd probably keep Zakel West and then maybe one of Mills or Moore just so you have that depth in case of an injury. You know what I mean? But I agree. Zakel and West for sure, waiver wire, and then if nobody, one of those two.
Yeah, I had Moore making my squad, so that's why I didn't say Moore for me. So that was what, 5 for me, I think, and 4 for you or something.
I
4,
think you're
maybe
at
5.
7 now or something. I don't know, but
7?
we're just saying who we would keep.
Okay. Going down to the defense. Like I said, Kevin Atkins would be the first guy. So Kevin Atkins on the practice squad for me, and then obviously you need to hit the waiver wire. And
Yeah,
I'd probably keep Alex Barrett too, actually.
Yeah, I would say the same. Alex Barrett and Kevin Atkins I'd keep on the practice squad. Just some guys that play hard, give you some reps at practice.
Barrett's been on the team for a while too, at the
Yeah.
practice squad at least.
He's been on and off for maybe 3
Yeah.
years now.
Yeah. The linebackers, probably only keep McCrary Ball, personally. Maybe Curtis Robinson, maybe.
I'd probably keep Marcelino, McCrary Ball, and Segun Alubi. He showed me a little bit in this last game. He's pretty explosive. So I'd keep them too because, the 49ers always keep these rookies and then they somehow end up into like great players that end up starting later down the line. So I'd keep both of them, see if they could develop.
Yeah. And then going to corner, I'm obviously keeping Castro Fields, Quantrez Knight, and then maybe Taylor Hawkins at safety. And then looking at the waiver wire.
For me, I'm keeping Holman. I obviously had Castro Fields make the team. I said if Ambry didn't make it. So I'd keep Holman, Fields, Knight, and Hawkins because I feel like they're all depth people that could possibly develop into something.
Holman's not a rookie. I just found that out that he's been in the league for a while, I think.
Yeah,
but he can still make the practice squad.
He showed he could play a little bit to me,
Yeah, I thought wasn't it in the Packers game? He got burnt a couple times, didn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, there was one play he was in man, didn't turn back to the ball, so the guy caught it short and then beat him for a touchdown.
But yeah,
he did play some pretty tight coverage though for some of the time.
Yeah. That's who I would keep on my practice squad.
I would definitely hit the waiver wire. There's going to be some great players that get cut. So obviously there's probably going to be some waiver guys that end up on the 53, but definitely on the practice squad.
Because you know how we're having that problem with what running back isn't going to make the team. Other teams are having the same problems at other positions. So there's obviously going to be great players, like how we're going to let a pretty good running back go. other teams are also going to let like pretty good O linemen or pretty good safeties, corners, whatever. They're also going to have that same issue. So
Yeah. And as you've seen already in the preseason, the few people the 49ers have released, on the small cut downs, instantly signed. So
yeah,
expect a lot of these people to be instantly signed to maybe 53s, but definitely practice squads of other teams as well.
yeah, yeah. Very interesting. What did you, before we log off, what did you think of Trey Lance's day?
I thought obviously it's what I expected. I expect ups and downs from him because he doesn't have reps. Um, Now, if you told me he had great pass protection the whole game and then he did that, I would have been like, yeah, that's a little worrying to me. But the dude had somebody in his face instantly like 8 times. Um, the Kittle throw could have been better. Threw that one in the dirt to Ayuk. Might have got tipped from what they were saying. But he could be more accurate, but we knew he needed work on that in the first place.
Yeah.
He needs to work through his progressions a little more. We knew he needed to work on that in the first place. It's going to take time for the dude to develop. He was not ready to go. He needs a reps. I'm not taking it as a big deal because we knew that's what he needed. He wasn't ready
And
to go. So, and the pass protection did not help him one bit.
yeah.
So I think it's about what I expected, to be honest with you.
And a lot of people are hitting on that play where he threw the go route to Debo instead of hitting Ayuk on like the slant over the middle. But you're also in the preseason, this is when you take those risks. I know Ayuk was wide open, but you also want to take those risks. Let's see what Debo can do in one-on-one, or let's just throw it deep to throw it deep. You know what I mean? Like, it's the preseason. Take risks. You don't need to be perfect on every single play. Obviously, like you said, he's going to have his ups and downs, and he looks shaky. Some throws could have been better. But you also don't have the best player in the NFL playing, and your other starting tackle. I'm not going to use that one as an excuse just because McKivitz might actually end up starting, just because that Mike McGlinchey injury is like really worrying me. So McKivitz might actually be out there, so that's not an excuse I'm going to make for him. But Trent Williams not being out there is huge. You know what I mean?
That
Um,
And Kyle Shanahan is going to scheme the pass
yeah,
protection. There's no scheme right now in preseason.
yeah,
So you got to think about that as well.
yep. If Shanahan can make an offense work and make Jimmy G look as good as he did, he can do the same thing for Trey Lance. Probably a lot easier too, since Trey can actually like move and run and stuff. Obviously, you don't want to be doing that crazy, but still. So yeah, I'm not too worried about it. And then next question before we get off, what are your thoughts on Banks and Burford? Because I know you kind of came to their defense after you rewatched a couple plays and stuff.
Yeah, so I will say Burford, everyone wants to rip into the guy when he makes a mistake right now. He had 2 holding penalties in the game. You got to remember, this is a 4th round rookie. They're not supposed to start right away. So that's kind of found money to me. And it's just like Trey Lance. You got to go with the ups and the downs. Like, the dude is a 4th round rookie. It's not like he's a top 10 pick. Those guys are supposed to start right away. He's not. So you got to be able to deal with those ups and downs from him. Jake Brendel has shown me nothing to say like they messed up keeping him. Like, we got to see what he can do. He hasn't looked bad.
I
Hasn't like been
know
crazy.
a lot of people said that Brendel looked pretty good this last
Yeah,
game. Before you move on, though, I wanted to touch on Burford too. Was like you said, he was a 4th round pick. I think he played tackle too in college, right?
he did.
I mean, he kind of
Left
played everywhere,
left
but
tackle last
yeah.
year.
So he's playing guard, which is a big change. And I would take a couple holding calls rather than him just getting blown up in general, looking like a McKivitz or a School. I would much rather take him, get a couple holdings than just getting blown up, because that dude, look in the run game. He's a mauler in the run game, like a true mauler, not like an Aaron Banks mauler that you are a little on the fence with. He's like a true mauler. So give me a couple holding penalties for him to be playing as well as he has. I'll take that without a doubt.
Definitely. And then Banks, I've been a harsh critic of Banks, as we all have. But after I'll try to find the video and I'll share it on the screen after I talk about him. But he looked very, very good in this game. He's huge, but he's not like strong. It's so weird. It's so weird to me. But he knows exactly where to go. Like, he's very savvy in getting people out of the way, or like turning and just walling them off like a basketball player. Like, I don't know. It's so weird.
So he's like a
But
huge finesse player almost, not like
yeah,
a huge power player.
it's so weird, but like, he got the job done, and that's all I can ask for. And like we had said on our breakdown, you keep Brunskill and Poe. And those are very, very good backup pieces that can give you reps. They may not be perfect, but they can win you reps if needed on the fly. It's the tackles that need some help. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Now you go ahead and talk, and I'll try to find that video.
Yeah, I haven't watched the video. I know you sent it to us. I didn't get a chance to watch it, and I wasn't paying as much attention to the interior at this last game. But like you said, the video showed that Banks looked good. Shanahan even said that he thought Banks has progressed extremely well throughout this preseason and this offseason as well. So I know we've all been harsh critics of Banks, especially on our channel. Me and Joseph have been probably some of the bigger critics on Banks, but if he can get it done, then he gets it done no matter what.
This video right here, they talk about Banks, Burford, and Brendel, and they break down a bunch of plays from the game. Definitely give it a watch. It's from the Football Scout.
Gotcha. Yep. So, Banks, Burford, they're going to have their ups and downs. They haven't played a whole bunch at the guard spots. But you just got to roll with them this year. What you hope for is, the offense has those ups and downs, and the defense kind of holds it steady throughout the season, like in 2019. You know what I mean? The defense. And I think this defense can be that elite as well as that 2019 defense, in my opinion. So hopefully we can count on the defense to hold it steady while the offense finds its grooves and gets into its groove at the end of the year going into playoff time. So that's what I'm hoping for.
So my last question before we finish, is this team ready for the regular season?
I think so. Obviously, I think they need to make sure and lock in on these next 16 to 15 days before the first game. Need to lock in, really get down the game plan, soak in all the reps. There's probably going to be some harsh coaching going on, especially after this last game. I think they need to take it, learn from it, and move on to the next page, and then they'll be good to go for that Bears game.
And I just want to say, don't sleep on the Bears. All the fans have seemed to put a win in this game already. Week 1, nobody knows what the other team's going to do. So, you could be in for a surprise if you show up and thinking it's going to be an easy win. And also, give Trey Lance time. We could go out week 1 and Justin Fields could look 10 times better than Trey Lance. It could happen. Doesn't mean Trey or Justin Fields is going to be better than him in the long term. But you cannot, everybody does not want to give Trey Lance time when that's what he needs. So no matter what happens, just let the dude play out the season and then let's see what happens. And that's all I got.
Yep, I agree. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. I know that our shorts have been doing really well lately, so we're going to keep trying to throw out some exclusive short videos as well, so make sure you check those out. Our goal, we're coming really close to our goal that we set from the start of this channel, was to hit 100 subscribers before the first regular season game. Joseph, can you check the count right now? I think we're at, what, 93?
Yep, and we 93 and we have 14 days.
Yep. So we need 7 subscribers. So help us get there. I think we're gonna try to do a little giveaway. We'll figure out something. But help us get there. We're right there. We're so close. Stay tuned for the giveaway. We'll figure out what we're gonna do. But yeah, that's it for me.
Yep. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. We're growing our live streams. We're getting like 10 plus people in at a time now, which may not seem like a lot to anybody, but hey, when we first started, we'd have like 1, and it was probably our mom. So that's encouraging, and we appreciate it. Thanks for tuning into the channel, and we love having you guys here with us.
Yep. Talk to y'all later. Peace.
Yep. See you next time.
Turn it back. Money.